Oh,
Good
yeah, Todd
times.
Stashwick, man. Cool.
I love him. I will love him until the end of time.
Awesome. Well, on that note, welcome everybody to the Unready Room. My name's Dan Gunther, of course, with me, as always, Brandi Jackola. And we're going to be talking for longer than 17 seconds about the
Mm,
episode 17 Seconds, season 3, episode 3 of Picard, directed by Jonathan Frakes. Eee! Um,
yeah.
yeah. All right. We have a lot to talk about in this one. I just finished rewatching it again. I was just upstairs, just finished watching it, came back down here. Um, yeah, lots to talk about in this episode. Some big revelations, some big plot moving forward stuff. Definitely not filler or anything like that. This is yeah, we've got a lot going on here. So,
Filler,
Brandi,
guys. Filler.
yeah, right.
Yeah,
How are
whatever.
you today?
I am great, actually.
Excellent.
I'm a little tired. It's been a hard week, but I'm great otherwise, and also extremely depressed about Discovery. But
Oh, yeah.
I'm wearing my disco shirt
Yeah.
and my Michael Burnham pin, and yeah. So I have a lot more Discovery pins. I could fit the entire cast on my chest with all the pins that I have. But yeah, other than those things, I'm great and I'm excited to talk about this episode.
Yeah, me too, for sure. We should talk just for a minute about Discovery because I think that's some big news this week for sure. Discovery will be ending. If anybody who's watching doesn't know, I'm sure everybody knows by now. With the final season, the upcoming 5th season will be the last. Coming sometime in 2024. So they've pushed it. I think probably to give it a more satisfying ending, to make it an actual ending season for the show. Definitely sad news. I'm disappointed we're not going to get more beyond season 5. But we're still got season 5 coming. I'm excited about that, and it sounds like they're able to end it on their own terms. They certainly didn't get canceled or anything like that. So um yeah.
That's not actually what I heard.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, what I heard was that the cast did not know that this was going to be the final season until about a week
Mm.
before this announcement was made.
Oh, that sucks.
Now,
That sucks.
whether that's true, I can't say because I don't think that the cast can talk about that
Yeah.
right now. But you know, yeah, because it seems to me like when Wilson Cruz was on Tig Notaro's podcast that he had no clue whatsoever that it was ending. So, I don't know.
Hmm.
So,
The good news is, like, they are able to, do things to make this the final season. I guess it's not like they finished a season and then are told not to come back next year. They're not. It's not quite along those lines, at least. So,
yeah.
yeah, disappointing in any case. But we'll be definitely here talking every week about that season of Discovery as it comes out, and every week for that season is going to be a celebration of Discovery. So
Indeed.
that's my pledge
Indeed.
to you.
Because were it not for Discovery, we wouldn't have all the rest of this.
Absolutely. Yeah, for
She is
sure.
the mother of modern Trek.
Definitely. The flagship show, and it's ushered in this golden age, this second golden age of Trek. So, yeah.
Yes.
All right. Well, let's get to the latest episode of Picard, 17 Seconds. We start out with this game of cat and mouse in the nebula between the Titan and the Shrike. And the first thing I've got to say about this episode is Vadic. And last episode at the end, we got like the scary, giggly, just manic Vadic. And then here at the beginning, we get the like eerily calm, focused, also very scary Vadic. And man, Amanda Plummer, she doesn't do a ton in this episode. Most of what we see of the Shrike is exterior views and that sort of thing. But what we do see of her, she is scary and incredible, and I love her.
And yeah, so it's almost like she's bored. It's almost like, yes, fire again. Yes, just do this, do that. And of course, later we come to find out it's because she knows exactly where they're going to be.
Yeah.
So maybe she is actually bored, and it's just like biding her time, wearing them down, and then it's going to get fun for her later.
Yeah. For sure. And like bored, but also like laser focused too, which is scary. Like her eyes are just like on the prize, and creepy. So anyway, we get that kind of set up as to what's going on in the episode. We get the opening sequence, and then this flashback, which I want to talk about a lot because I have a lot to say about this flashback to 10 forward. It's flashing back to 2381. Riker's son Thaddeus has just been born, and we know where that's headed. We know Thaddeus's future, and that's very sad. But this moment between Picard and Riker, like, it's got that hanging over it because we as the audience know that, but at the same time you see the glow of a new father, and we get the explanation of the title, the 17 seconds, right? It took him to get from the bridge to sickbay when it was thought there was something going wrong with the pregnancy. Captain, you better get down here. And in that moment, you became a father, Picard says. And this, of course, is going to weigh heavily on later in the episode. But I loved so much about this scene. I loved seeing them at this period. I loved even the de-aging they did. I think looked really good. Like it looked flawless. It looked like Riker post Nemesis. Like that's exactly what it was. Great. I love this scene. They put a lot of work into it, and it shows.
Yeah. And when you think about it, and you think, oh, and Frakes also directed this.
Yes.
So yeah, just it's perfection, and it's everything that we want, including the interruption of Deanna talking about, hey, your son just projectile vomited all over. Where the hell are you, basically? And
bring the whiskey.
Bring the whiskey. Yeah, she needs it.
Yeah. We get Deanna Troi. She gets a special guest star credit on this episode. She's in the episode 17 seconds for, I think, around or possibly less than 17 seconds.
Yeah, thereabouts.
But it's great to see her. We only ever see her on this view screen here, but Marina Sirtis, Deanna Troi, she's wonderful. Whiskey and cigars.
Yeah, so very male. Just hey, did you ever think maybe Deanna wanted whiskey and a cigar? Huh? Did you ever think about that, Will? Did you? I think
he'll make up for it. He's bringing the whiskey.
Yeah.
But so that's a really nice setup, and of course parallels to what Picard is going through and will be going through in this episode for sure. We go back to the present day, and they're flying through this nebula trying to evade the Shrike, and we're getting these strange energy surges they have a biological component. There's some kind of weird energy surge, and my first thought when the energy surges first start is, hey, these actually make the lights on the Titan work. Because man, is that ship dark. And I mean, I know people are like criticizing it out the wazoo for that. I think it looks cinematic, it's fine. But then the lights do come up, and I'm like, oh, maybe that's why it's so dark, just to create that juxtaposition there. But
I wonder if that is the captain's choice, that the bridge is so dark, because the rest of the ship isn't really dark.
That's true.
The rest of the ship is pretty normal where lighting is concerned. It's just the bridge. Maybe that's the captain's discretion. Maybe that's what he likes.
Yeah. And I mean, I know, like, I've heard from people that there are like Navy vessels and that sort of thing, that they do keep the command area dark so that people can focus on their monitors and that sort of thing. Makes sense. I mean, when Voyager goes to red alert, all the lights go down, right? That's just,
That's true.
yeah.
Good call. Good call. Yeah, it works for me. It doesn't really. I mean, it's it's interesting, but at the same time, when you compare it to things that happen in actual real life, it is a thing. So it's not like
Hmm.
people are saying, "Oh, it's just a stupid decision." No,
Yeah.
it's something that happens in real life too. So
Yeah.
there you go.
I like Tristan's comment here. The lighting on Titan doesn't bother him. It makes things feel underwater, underscoring that submarine feeling. Absolutely,
Mhm.
yeah. We've got like run silent, run deep stuff going on in
Yeah.
this big time for sure. And
Mhm.
I love this comment by Wellington. That proves that Shaw's just from the mirror universe. Anytime a ship is dark, they're from the mirror universe.
I don't know. I think Shaw is kind of more like what we wanted Lorca to be for a minute.
I think
So,
so.
but maybe what we wanted just our universe Lorca to be like. Anyway, it's all good.
Yeah. um so yeah, there's some great scenes in this part here. um we get first Sydney LaForge visiting Seven of Nine in her quarters, calling her Commander Seven as that sign of respect. I really love that.
Mm-hmm.
That was a great little scene, kind of relating to her on that level. I love the idea that it's kind of like what they were going for at the start of Discovery with the Shenzhou, and you see all these relationships and stuff. I
Mm-hmm.
wonder what the weeks leading up to this episode were like on Titan. We know Seven's kind of been suffering a bit under Shaw, but there's all these other characters that have made all these relationships and connections. And I like that feeling of this being a lived-in ship, that, they haven't just set out on this adventure as brand new people who've never met each other, but they have a bit of a history. I like that.
I do too. I think it's funny Seven's reaction when she's just kind of like, it's almost like she's rolling her eyes without rolling her eyes,
Mm-hmm.
and especially when she says, "This sounds rehearsed."
Yeah.
Just and then of course Sydney says the things that she says, and Seven is touched.
Mm-hmm.
She feels seen. So yeah, that was a lovely thing that Sydney did, especially being awkward with people, because I know that feeling big time.
Yeah. And I mean, that first part of that speech, that did seem rehearsed. I think she
Mhm.
stood in her quarters or stood outside the door and said it to herself a few times and then went in, and Seven's like, okay, no. No. And then, okay, so from there we go to sick bay, and Dr. Oak is the Trill chief medical officer of the Titan. And at first here, I've got to say, um, I'm sorry, Dr. Crusher was the head of Starfleet Medical at one point. Like, come on.
Mhm.
It'd take me too long to get you up on the last 20 years. Okay, give me a break. I was
Okay.
not happy.
Oh yeah, I was like, oh no, child, you did not just do that.
Hmm.
You did not just do that. You may think that because Beverly Crusher was no longer in Starfleet, that she doesn't know what's going on out there. She's out there doing cutting edge stuff that nobody else is doing because
Hmm.
they won't. Because no one will help. And she's out there doing that. This assumption that she had no idea about all of the advances was just like, no, you did not just do that. And Beverly, being Beverly, she has this look in her eyes like, I could school you so hard right now, but that is not what I'm here to do.
Yeah, and I love that too, because that's so Crusher, where
Mm-hmm.
like obviously Crusher knows better, and would be, but this is her sick bay, and
Mm-hmm.
Crusher kind of, all right, and just kind of like, I'm not going to argue. And then Dr. Oak gets called, I think, to engineering or something. And Crusher's like, all right, back to work then.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Just, I'm going to do what I do, and I'm going to do it right. And yeah. And what do all of those advances in medicine actually mean when Dr. Oak doesn't actually figure out what's going on with Shaw, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Huh?
Yeah,
Anyway,
absolutely. It actually reminded me of a Dr. Pulaski moment a little bit where in season 2, I think it was the episode Contagion. They kept having power loss and sick by losing power and stuff. And basically one of the nurses is like, I can't fix this without the bone knitter. Like the systems are offline. And Pulaski's like, okay, let me show you how to make a splint. You know, good old fashioned medicine using 2 hands and a good heart. And there's just like a lovely scene where, you know, she's a doctor. Like, it doesn't matter the technology. It doesn't where the shortcomings of those technologies are. She's a doctor and will know what to do because she has become an expert in that. And I love that.
Yep. Well, see, that's the thing. You can rely on technology, but what happens when you don't have access to that technology? You still have to know how to help people. And every Starfleet doctor should be trained that way.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
Yeah. There's another great bit with Crusher too that I loved in this episode that just really shows her character. When Jack rushes to her like defense and is kind of being like, hey, you know, blah blah, and Crusher holds him back and says, Jack, don't do that. And you think it's like the common reaction would be like, they're not worth it, or, you know, that's, you know, don't rise to that. But what she says to him is, they're going to need us. And I love that. Like, Jack, don't, we're gonna have to help them. Like, it's always from a place of compassion for the people around her, regardless of how they're treating her. And that's a doctor. Like, that is in the truest sense of the word. I love that so much.
Yes. Beverly, my heart.
Well, speaking of Beverly, the next scene we get is the big one between Picard and Crusher. And this scene is doing a lot of heavy lifting in this episode. This is a make it or break it scene, I think, because there's a lot going into this where they could drop the ball, right? So we as the audience have to buy the fact that 20 years ago, Crusher left Picard's life forever, pregnant with his child, didn't tell him, didn't reveal anything to anybody, and we're only finding out about this now. That's a big ask for an audience. It really is, for like characters that we've followed and loved for all this time. And God help me, they pull it off with this scene. Like, I went in skeptical as all heck. Like, how are they going to make this make sense? And I don't buy all of Crusher's reasoning, but I buy that she bought that reasoning. And that's why, like, I would have made a different decision. I would have advised her to make a different decision, but I totally believe that this character made that decision and stuck with it. This scene is so good. The acting from Gates McFadden and Patrick Stewart, they are just at the top of their game in this scene. I love it. It's so good. I'm just gonna gush about this scene.
It is gush worthy. The funny thing is that it kind of reminded me a little bit of a scene between Kirk and Carol Marcus in Wrath of Khan. And she just flat out tells him, were we together? Were we going to be? You know, I wanted him in my life. So, but the interesting thing about their discussion / argument is that they're both right and they're both wrong.
Absolutely, 100%.
So, because I can totally get, I understand why she thought the way she did, even though I don't agree with it. And I understand that it was not her right to take that choice away from Picard. So it's this really interesting seesaw, because you're like, oh, you're right, but you're right too, and yet you're both wrong. And you know, it is what it is. Now what are you going to do about it?
Yeah, absolutely. And I there's one part of Crusher's argument that I buy more than the other, and there's the danger of him being Picard's son and all of that. I'm kind of like, I get that, but at the same time, like, they kind of then chose a pretty dangerous life afterwards. So I don't know, that seems a little. But the part that really got me was when Crusher said, like, how many times have you told me that you did not want a family, that you didn't want kids, and that you couldn't be a father? And like, you can see Picard, like, probably thinking back to all the times he said something like that, unknowingly, not knowing that it would affect this in such a big way later in his life. And that got to me, and I was like, I could see someone making that choice because of what a partner has said in that way, you know.
Yeah. And it makes me wonder, because again, and going back to another movie, in Generations, when he's in the Nexus, what is his dream? What is his fantasy? Have a family, have a wife, have kids.
Yeah.
So which one of those kids is actually in this episode of Picard?
His actual, yeah.
So, which is so funny. I'm just like, I thought that guy looked familiar.
That is really funny. Absolutely.
It
I
is
love
funny.
that.
And so, but then we're balancing that against him losing, you know, Renee and Robert in that freak fire or whatever. It's like, how does that happen? I mean, accidents still happen, but yeah, because nature has a will of its own. We are joking ourselves if we think we can control nature, but so yeah, maybe because we don't really have a ton of context for their relationship, because we didn't see most of it on screen. We see some of it, but very little.
No.
And so yeah, I just feel like maybe it's because of the whole losing his family thing, and he doesn't want to go through that pain again. I don't know. It just seemed interesting. I mean, we knew at the beginning of TNG that he didn't do well with children.
Yeah.
I mean, he flat out says that Riker's there to make sure he doesn't make a fool of himself around children.
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah.
I was also thinking of Generations during that scene, and his Nexus fantasy about the family and stuff. And my first thought was like, I guess he didn't tell Beverly about that fantasy, and he wouldn't, right? He probably never breathed a word of that to anyone. That's what the Nexus determined his ultimate fantasy outside of Starfleet would be. That's really interesting. There's depths to this man for sure.
Depths. We like depths. Oops. Let me just knock my pop filter. Thanks. Sorry, guys. That was probably loud.
So two other revelations from this bit at the end of their conversation. Jack's accent. We get the reasoning for that. Oh, he went to school in London and never shook it. And he's like, oh, I was just starting to think it was genetic. That was cute.
Yeah.
I like that.
I never thought it was genetic, and I even said,
oh no,
after
that
we
was
had
the line
seen,
that was said.
yeah, I know,
Yeah.
but I didn't actually ever think that, obviously. But it was just funny because I had said the first time I watched episode 1, I said to Dave, they're going to have to explain why Jack has a British accent, or I'm going to be very upset.
I did like that little throwaway. That was good.
Yeah, I appreciated it.
Yeah. And then the other revelation is Jack did know who Picard was. He knew for quite a while. As soon as Jack was old enough, Beverly told him who his father was and gave him the option, and he decided not to. So interesting. Very interesting there. That's
Strokey beard.
Yeah, that's something that when you go back and rewatch the previous episodes adds a new layer onto all of those interactions. And
Yep.
as soon as Jack sees Picard, or at the very least, as soon as Picard says, "I'm Admiral Jean-Luc Picard" on the thing, he knows, like, from that moment. It's like, oh, this is my biological father. Interesting.
Yeah. Yes, very interesting. And I think Jack has a few more secrets that he's not telling people, anyone really.
There's one bit, and I don't know what to make of this. Speaking of Jack's secrets, so there's a bunch more in the episode. We're kind of jumping around a little bit, but
That's what we do.
it is what we do. So when Jack is passed out, and Seven's finding him having deuterium poisoning and stuff, this vision he's having, I have no idea what to make of this, other than like the branches growing made me think of The Last of Us, but I don't think that's where it's supposed to be going.
I'm pretty sure they're not referencing The Last of Us.
But yeah, there's the line, what is it? Connect the branches is what he hears. And
I have a theory.
okay, well, so yeah, there's these branches, there's that going on behind, and then my wife and I have been kind of on and off rewatching Futurama, and so we see that door, and I'm like, it's the scary door.
Yes. Yes.
So that will forever be the scary door in my head.
Yeah, because honestly, that's something straight out of a horror movie. I mean,
no,
that's every psychological ghost horror story there is.
yeah. And yeah, the "we'll be together soon" bit as well was heard there. So find me, connect the branches, we'll be together soon. Interesting. So your theory, what's your theory behind this? Because I'm curious.
Okay. Well, we need to talk about the big revelation, like the huge one. So changelings. Oh my god. What?
Yep.
Did not see that coming. Did not see that coming. And so when this voice says connect the branches, we know from the interrogation of this guy played by Thomas Dekker, who is one of the kids in Picard's fantasy in the Nexus, that, well, just what Worf knows is that there was a faction of changelings that split off from the Dominion because they wanted to keep the war going. They wanted to fight. They were basically, I'm sure they considered themselves freedom fighters. Somewhat, everyone else would have seen them as terrorists. This all depends on who you ask. So they've got this branch of changelings who have been away from the Great Link for a while now. And you got to wonder, how are they surviving? But also, how have they changed in the last 20 years or so, maybe 25 years calendar wise? So I feel like somehow Jack is the person that they need to reabsorb this group of people to get them all back together, to get the Great Link complete again. That I don't exactly know how or why or anything, but I think these things may have been implanted in him somehow when he was on one of his solo missions, because we have seen that he's been on solo missions before. So I'm just saying, there's a possibility somebody altered something in his brain, and this is why this is happening, and they need him, which would make sense as to why Vadic wants him. Obviously, he's some kind of hot commodity, some kind of asset. So anyway, that's how it all fits in my brain right now. I'm sure something's going to probably happen that makes that go out the window. But for now, with the limited information I have, that is my theory.
Interesting. Okay. Interesting. The changelings are a big wrinkle in this, and I think that's really fascinating that they're bringing them in. I love I love Deep Space Nine. I mean, it's my favorite, right? So the
Mhm.
fact that they're bringing this aspect of the story in just really warms my heart. The effect for the changelings, I mean, that's disgusting. I love it.
Mhm.
It looks very real, almost too real. Ugh. Um, and oh man, okay. So I've got to mention this. I don't know if this was the same for everywhere, but I am so glad that I watched this episode without closed captions the first time, because this time when I rewatched it, I put on closed captions just to make sure I didn't miss anything. And the very first scene on Vadic's ship, when one of the crew members makes some, clicks and speaks in their alien language, it says changeling in alien language, and then their dialogue. And I was like, what? Like, you can't, no, what? That was, I really hope. And I know there's going to be a few people out there that watched it for the first time with captions, and that sucks. That's not good.
Yeah. Yeah. That was a mistake. You could have
Yeah.
just put speaking in alien language. You didn't have to put the changeling part.
Yeah. And
But yeah.
the thing is, like, the way it works, the way I'm given to understand it works, is that if somebody is speaking and they're not on screen, they put the whatever they're called in the script in front of their dialogue, right? So it's like, oh, that's the guy. But like, yeah, when it's a revelation that has yet to come, I wish there was a way to go in and change that. But of course, the script, the people working on it, they all know who the people are. So it doesn't, that was frustrating. That I
Yeah.
feel really bad for anybody that got spoiled via that route.
Yeah. Well, yeah. It's interesting. I'm just there's so much we still don't know. And the thing is that all of this seems to be about Jack.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to know why.
So yeah, on the Titan, the shifty dude that we found out was the transporter operator, the guy that was giving Riker and them side eye, he's the changeling, right? That was we knew there was something up with him. That was cool. He plays a really good shifty dude. That's his name, by the way. Shifty dude.
Shifty dude.
Yeah.
Yeah, side eye guy. Side eye guy is still my favorite.
Side eye guy works, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I told y'all there was something not right with him, and I was right that he ain't right.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's shift over to Rafi and Worf for now then, because we'll come back to the Titan with everything that kind of goes on at the end of the episode. But yeah, we should talk about Rafi and Worf, because I want these two to be together forever as like a
Yes.
dual spy team. They are
Mm-hmm.
amazing. I love
Mm-hmm.
them.
Yes. Yes. All of the best lines in this entire episode come out of Worf. All the best
Mhm.
lines. They gave him such gold in this script.
Yeah.
Oh man, it was so good. It was so good to see him, and Rafi waking up and just like, what? Thinking that she's been kidnapped or whatever, and then she knows who he is,
Mm-hmm.
and then realizes, oh, this is the handler. What?
So the whole introduction, I mean, we can't not go through this. I am Worf, son of Moog, House of Martok, son of Sergei, House Roshenko, Bane of the Duras family, Slayer of Gowron. I made some chamomile tea. Do you take sugar?
He says it all in the same voice too. It's just,
Yes.
I have made some chamomile tea. Do you take sugar? Just great. So great.
Now, you and I talked about this before we started, but there's this meme going around, and I love it. And it's it's that whole introduction. I'm Worf, son of Moog, House of Martok, blah 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 blah. And he gets to the end, and Rafi says, "Father of Alexander," and Worf goes, "Who?" It's so bad.
Ouch. Just ouch. That hurts me.
Yeah. But yeah, it was made by somebody in the Andorian Memeing Consortium, which is a group on Facebook, and Terry Metalis actually retweeted that image as well, so that was great. Oh, Alexander.
Yeah, that was a whole weird thing.
But I mean, suffice it to say, I love Worf.
Mhm.
He's just the best. Michael Dorn, he just inhabits that role. Like, you can tell he's playing him a little older. He's changed the voice a little bit, but he is Worf. Like, there's no denying that. He just inhabits this role so well. I really like him.
The funny thing is that that mustache and goatee, that's Michael Dorn's, and they like put just a little bit longer pieces on the sides, but the rest of that's him. And oh my God, it works.
Yeah. I mean, that's what they did back in the day too. Like, he grew that out during the last half of TNG to make the makeup quicker, basically. I love that.
Yeah. And he was talking, go watch the Red Room episode about this guy, because Will interviews Frakes, and it's great. And behind the scenes stuff with Michael Dorn and Jerry Ryan. The chairs are really spinny on the bridge, really spinny, and she is having fun with that. So, and also Michelle Hurd. It's just a lot of good fun stuff there on that episode.
So I had similar thoughts to what's being expressed in the comments a little bit here, and I'm going to highlight this comment because I absolutely agree. Would not Worf and Elnor playing off each other along with Rafi just be so good? Like, was there no room for him in this season? They really could have brought him in.
It would have been so good, especially with his whole absolute candor thing. It's
Yes.
Just such a missed opportunity.
Oh man. Yeah. I think it's been out long enough that I can say this. There is a Star Trek Picard novel by Una McCormick, and it's kind of a surprise in the novel what character shows up. So if you really, really, really don't want to know, plug your ears now. In that novel, Garrick shows up, and Garrick and Elnor playing against each other is so good. Garrick lies 100% of the time. Elnor tells the truth 100% of the time. It's wonderful. Garrick is giddy at having Elnor because he's like, interrogations are so easy with this guy.
Oh, well, of course she would bring back Garrick. She loves Garrick. So, I mean, duh. Yeah. Oh, I still have yet to read that, but I don't mind the spoiler. That actually makes me want to read it even more. So, yeah.
Absolutely. And I'm just, Second Self, Star Trek Picard Second Self is the novel, for those who are asking in the comments. It's a blue novel with Picard, Rafi, and Elnor on the cover, and so good.
I will get on that.
Sorry for anybody that I spoiled that. It's a lovely, anyway.
Yeah.
But I just had to say that.
I appreciate that, because like I said, it makes that one move to the top of the list now. So.
Excellent. So I mean, we've talked about pretty much everything we need to with Rafi and Worf. We find out through this this character Titus, played by Thomas Dekker, who, as we've said, played Picard's son in the Nexus in Generations, and also played was it Henry Burley in Voyager, Janeway's gothic holonovel thing, the little blonde kid. Yeah, he's all grown up and a changeling here.
Yeah, he was in another episode too, though. This because Patrick knows this. Patrick, share with the class because you'll probably do it faster than I will. But I'm pretty sure he was the one who sent me that thing that he was in. No. Patrick, we talk too much. I can't find it. If you list Patrick, help me out. But it was a list of 3 other appearances he had in Star Trek with pictures.
Yeah, the only 2 I know of were in the Nexus, and then the holographic kid in Voyager, who was in a few episodes, but
yeah, there was a 3rd one.
Huh.
I can't find it. Pretty sure it was the one. Patrick was the one who sent it to me, but it's. I'm not gonna keep going through my phone while we're doing this. So.
Yeah, you're kind of cutting out a little bit too. I don't know if it's your internet or my internet.
Oh no, I can hear you fine. So it might be me.
All right, it's just every once in a while you're kind of a little bit. Should be fine.
I'll be really close to my microphone. Does this help?
So yeah, okay. So Worf and Raffi, not a ton more we need to talk about there. I'm really excited to see more of them for sure. Beheadings are on Wednesdays. Great line. I love, everything's gold there.
Perfect.
We should go back to the Titan because we've got the Titans being tracked, and Jack kind of is the one that figures that out, and he uses 7. The 2 of them figure it out, and that's when we get the side-eye spy guy attacking them, and his weird scary door vision and all that stuff. But on the bridge, we have Picard and Riker. And Riker has been given command by Shaw because Shaw's been injured. And Picard is Riker's number 1, basically, which at the start of the episode, you're kind of like, oh, this is going to be fun. By the end of the episode, less fun. They are having a clash of philosophies when it comes to dealing with Vadic and the Shrike. Riker trying to safeguard the lives of the crew as best he can by hiding and trying to escape as quickly as possible. And Picard insisting that they have to turn and fight. They have to confront Vadic and set a trap for her and all this kind of thing. And it gets tense. It starts out, just as kind of debating things back and forth. But by the end, it is really coming to levels of animosity between the 2 of them, which was a bit distressing to watch, I have to say.
It was, and it seemed to both me and Dave that Picard was reverting back to his Ahab ways, the singular focus on what needed to be done, and that was it. There should be no discussion. This is what they were doing. And on the other hand, we've got Will, who, let's be honest, he wants to keep people alive, and I'm sure that he's also thinking about how he couldn't save his son, so he's not going to let anybody else die on his watch.
Yeah.
And so you've got these 2 extremes where in reality things should kind of be more in the middle, but they're both coming at it from an extreme point of view.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that clash is big.
Absolutely. And it's tough to see because they're such old friends and stuff. And in the same way that, like, the scene between Picard and Crusher early on is so good. It's hard because these two people have cared for each other for so long. It's hard to see them angry at each other, but it feels very justified, and they're so angry with each other because they care about each other so much. Like,
Yeah.
if you didn't care about the other person, you wouldn't be that angry. It would just be like, whatever. With Picard and Riker, I had a little bit harder time getting on board with it, just because there's things that are influencing this relationship in ways that, like, artificial is the wrong word, but it's not as organic as the Crusher Picard conflict. It's more the circumstances are kind of pushing them here, and you just want to be able to step in and say, hey guys, you're right and you're right, you need to kind of come to the middle here. And then the very end, which I feel like was a bit unearned, was like, it's a horrible moment. This portal weapon has been used to keep the Titan in the nebula, and then they fire at the Shrike, but the Shrike is ready, and it opens the portal. The torpedoes go through and appear right behind the Titan and slam into it. Horrible moment. It spells doom for them all. And Riker's line when he says, remove yourself from the bridge, you've just killed us all. I feel like I hope an apology is coming next episode because wow.
Yeah, but at the same time, I get where he's coming from.
Yeah.
Because again, he's trying to save everyone. He is trying to keep people from dying. He listens to Jean-Luc, and honestly, why didn't any of them think? You've seen the portal weapon in action. What now? Did you think the third time would use it? Are you kidding me with that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well,
and like that particular scene too, like they came upon the Shrike and they were expecting to be behind the Shrike. Like they were expecting to catch her off guard, and instead the ship is facing them, and they panicked. I think like Picard said, she's facing this way, we've got it, and Riker yells, fire everything we've got. What they should have done was realize she's in position to do this thing, hold your fire, we've got to get out of the path of, and regroup and try again, right? There was just like, this is our only shot, this is our only moment, and it might have been, but at the same time they needed a little bit sober second thought there, and they panicked, they fired, and she was ready, and it was clear she was ready. And yeah, that was on both of them. The only problem I have with that is Riker saying, you've killed us all. It's like, no, you both did that. Like, but I do get it as well, but anyway.
Yeah, well, he wants someone to blame, and because he couldn't really blame anyone for his son's death. And that's a natural thing about humans. They want a target for their grief and their anger. And they can often pick one that actually may not have had anything to do with it. That's how fascists divide us, is by creating a target and saying, this person is why you're not happy. So it's Riker was just picking the nearest target, the most viable target for his anger at himself.
And I feel like a reconciliation is coming. Like I feel like there's going to be an understanding. Like they're not gonna well, Picard and Riker hate each other now.
No.
But and there's a funny thing to watching this episode. It was kind of like, I'm really glad it was directed by Jonathan Frakes, because I feel like if it was another director, and this is a weird thing, this doesn't make any actual rational sense, but I feel like if it was another director having these characters do these things, it would have felt more of a betrayal of Riker's character to have him give that line at the end. But because Jonathan Frakes was directing the episode, I was like, okay, he knows what he's doing, it'll be fine. I know that's like not rational, but that's how my brain went through this, and I was like, okay, well, Jonathan Frakes directed it, so I'm okay.
Yeah. I'm seeing a comment in the chat saying that has been dead for years, though. That doesn't make any difference at all.
No,
you do not get over that. You learn how to live with it, but that trauma will be with you until the end of time. That's 100%. And I can say that from experience. That's just how it is. That kind of loss changes you forever, and you just have to learn how to live in this new world.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't have a lot of direct experience with that, but I have close friends who have gone through very similar to what Riker and his family would have gone through, and it's been years. It doesn't matter. It does not matter. So yeah, no, absolutely, 100%. Is there anything in this episode we haven't talked about at this point? I think we've got it pretty well covered. I am so excited for where this is going to go, especially Worf and Rafi, but also with what's going on with Vadic and all of this. So, oh boy, how are they going to get out of this one? They're doomed, surely, right?
Yeah. And again, yes, he absolutely would still shout, because again, I know this from experience. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how long it is. Something can trigger you, and you will lash out. So, one thing I wanted to highlight was Shaw after he had been injured and the transfer command. It's just how he's pointing. He's bleeding everywhere. He's bleeding blood out of his mouth, and he points at Riker. You got us into this, and you're gonna get us out of it. It's just
that was good. I mean, yeah, Todd Stashwick can do no wrong as this character at this point, I think.
Agreed.
Yeah. I guess the one thing we could bring up is we learn that the portal weapon theft was a distraction from something else, and they need to find out what this is. Yeah. I have theories on that based on stuff we've seen in the trailers, but we'll hold off on. I'll hold off on that speculation. But we know of certain things that are being held at Daystrom, so.
Yes, certain things that we've known since season 1.
So Brandi, final thoughts and a rating for the episode, and that goes for folks in the comments too, of course.
Yeah, apparently I am sounding a lot like GLaDOS thanks to dodgy internet. Sorry about that, guys.
Kind of
it's not dodgy on my end. It's not at all dodgy on my end. I'm wondering what's going on. So, this episode, it was a lot. There's a lot of emotions, and that's the thing to say. I appreciate it. It was a good episode, a really good episode. Even if there are things. Now, I just blipped. I think that I'm being surveilled. Someone's interrupting my internet.
Yeah, it's definitely getting a lot worse now.
That's weird.
I couldn't really make out a lot of what was said there. Hopefully the audience is picking up more. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't know. Hang on a second. If I can do something else.
Oh, the nebula's interfering. That's what's going on. Okay, so we've got some ratings coming up, so I'll put those up here. Okay, some good ratings for sure. I'll share some of my final thoughts. I mean, I really enjoyed this episode. I think Jonathan Frakes' acting in this really makes it for me, but his directing as well. I think he directs this episode incredibly. But I mean, there's so much going on in this episode, it's hard to pick a favorite thing, but it's got to be Worf and Raffi. I mean, they're not even the lion's share of this episode. They're kind of the smaller part of the episode, but what they have is so good. And Michael Dorn as Worf is just incredible. But besides that, the scene between Picard and Crusher, the revelations that, Jack knew that Picard was his father, and just the filling in of that history of the last 20 years. This episode is so good, and I loved all of that for sure. So I'm gonna give it a 17-second turbo lift ride, but for a good reason, not for a bad reason. I don't know.
Can you hear me now? Am I
I can hear
stable?
you. You're much better.
Okay,
Yes.
great. Excellent. Yeah, I appreciated so much about this episode, and I think that Frakes did a great job directing it, and because it's hard to direct and act at the same time, but he always manages to make it look effortless. So many great things, so many great lines, so many great Shaw moments. I didn't have enough Shaw in this episode. I wanted more.
Mm-hmm.
but I'm gonna give it one big accidentally sounding like GLaDOS for a while there. We were streaming.
It's much better now, so that's awesome.
Yeah.
Some great ratings I'm seeing here. Very nice. I love that.
Good times. Yes, fantastic.
It is not warrior gear. It is casual. I love Worf so much.
That's casual.
Oh, you know who else I really liked in this episode is Tavine, the Vulcan science officer on the bridge. I really warmed up to her. Like at first I was kind of like, I don't know, maybe not Vulcan-y enough, but like in this episode I'm just, oh, she's so good. Like there's an edge to her voice that some might criticize as not being emotionless enough for a Vulcan, but there are different Vulcans and they all do their own thing, and I really like her.
I agree.
Something about her.
There is something about her. I really like her as well. I liked her immediately.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I mean, when I was thinking of those comments, it was like when she was background crew member number 3 in the first episode that had like an ICER or something like that, and it's like, interesting. But now that I've like heard her speak and seen her in a little bit more of a focus, man, I really like her.
Yeah, well, I have a great affinity for Vulcans, so I get excited when I see one as a regular in a series.
Yeah, for sure. I've been seeing people wanting a bit of a spin-off from Picard, and Tavine as a main character on the bridge would be pretty cool. That would be awesome.
Yeah, Star Trek Titan, make it happen.
Yeah, absolutely.
But you gotta keep that same bridge crew and Todd Stashwick, or I'm not there. So
yeah, or move all of this crew over to the Enterprise G or something.
Or something. Just keep them together. I will watch them. And put 7 there. Keep 7 there. It'd be perfect. No. I'm just saying.
Yeah, the Picard Riker conflict left me a little uneasy, but I'm really willing to trust where they're going with it, basically. Is kind of
yes, so am I. Well, see, the thing is that in real life there is conflict. You don't get along with anyone 100% of the time. And the whole point of dealing with conflict when telling a story is, how do you resolve that conflict? How do you come together and achieve? How do you pool all of your talents and get yourselves out of this situation, speaking specifically of the situation that's going on right now. So
Mhm.
conflict is inevitable. People have different viewpoints, people have different opinions. And so this whole idea with Gene Roddenberry and never having conflict on the bridge is unrealistic at best.
Mhm.
At worst, it's completely ridiculous. But
Yeah.
that's just how people are. That's just how people are. And the fact that these people can come together, work together for a common goal, that's the beauty of it. It's not having conflict, it's rising above it, learning to cooperate, choosing to cooperate.
Yeah. Absolutely. Um Yeah, and I mean that's what makes it like there's this tendency to be like, oh, things are different in the 24th or the 25th century, and the show shouldn't do this because of this, blah blah blah. All of that is all well and good, but it's a show made for people in the 21st century. Like it doesn't,
Mhm.
if you make it so that it's completely unrelatable, that you can't even recognize these people as human, then what purpose does it serve, right? Like
Mhm.
there's the aspirational aspect of Star Trek, which is something that I believe in and something that is huge, and I love that. But you can't have a franchise survive on this is what we should be and that's all we're going to show every week. We're not going to show like how we get there, right? And
Yeah.
I think that's important. So
I
yeah.
agree, because I think where Star Trek is concerned, that it is a look at the progression we can make, but also they are still progressing. The whole
Hmm.
point is, you know, getting to that point. you know,
Yeah.
it's not that the future is perfect, it's that we're working towards the perfect future.
Hmm.
That's the point.
Yeah. And with that said, I totally respect this opinion as well. And if someone doesn't buy this from these characters, I can see that.
Sure.
Um I'm riding that line. Like that final line of Riker's was still a bit much. I can see in the heat of the moment that happening, which is why I'm like, okay, I'm gonna wait for next week and see how this all shakes out. It's kind of unfortunate that that's where the episode ends because I feel like that's a bit of a bad taste in your mouth for a week now.
Hmm.
But it's like there's the line and Sabko, you're on this side of it and I'm on just barely this side of it, and I could come back your way. I'm hoping that what we see next will bring me back over to like, okay, all right, I buy this. But I totally
Yeah.
respect if someone doesn't buy it because
Oh, sure,
I
sure,
get it.
sure. Well, see, that's the thing. We can have differing opinions, and I'm not going to
Mhm.
shame anyone for their opinion about anything. And because if you didn't like something, that's fine. That's
Mhm.
fine. It doesn't bother me. What bothers me is when people try to force their opinions on me and tell me that
Yeah.
it's fact. That's when I start to have a problem. Because
Yeah.
often, because I'm female, I don't know as much about Trek as a straight man would. So, oh, I have had people tell me before that I don't know Trek. And I'm
Yeah.
just like, I'm sorry. How old are you? Because I've been watching it since I was born.
Yeah. And Sabko, I absolutely agree with this comment for sure. This is
Mhm.
my favorite episode so far of this season.
Hold my beer.
Maybe of the series actually, now that I think about it. But yeah, really good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Somebody else made the comment up here, and I've got to agree with this because I did have this in my notes as well. Worf is the good cop. So good.
Yes. When did you ever think you would see that?
Brilliant. Brilliant,
So
brilliant. I
great.
love it.
So great. The best.
And Rafi's reaction to all of it, my favorite line of hers when Worf is like, you can grow. We all blah blah blah. We all have anger. We must overcome it. And Rafi's like, I think I feel my chamomile tea coming up. Love it. I want more of these two together.
Yes. Yes, I do too.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, with that said, I guess that's it for this week. We'll be back again next week with the episode No Win Scenario is episode 4. I'm excited for that. Brandi, where can people follow you on social media to find out what you're up to in the next week?
Social media, Twitter at Brandywine12, Mastodon at
So close. Oh, that was such a good line.
I can never remember if this is why you should just have the same freaking handle for social media for everything, because then you don't have to because you've forgotten. It's it is it's Brandywine at Rave Nation dot something. Anyway, sorry about that. Yeah, at ravenation.club. There it is. Brandywine at ravenation.club. So
Nice.
sorry.
So, no worries.
Honestly, just being a professional means you get paid. Oh, I skipped again. No.
Okay.
No, did I freeze? Am I frozen?
No, I think you're okay, depending on how much of a delay there is.
Oh, wait, no, I can hear you. We're good.
Okay. Yeah, and I can just be found on Twitter at Kurtrats and on Mastodon at Kurtrats at mstdn.ca. And of course, the Positively Trek podcast that I do with Barry DeFord. And yeah, there's a book club episode. It's probably going to be a couple weeks before it's out, but it's with John Jackson Miller. We talk about his latest novel, the first Star Trek Strange New Worlds novel. And my co-host on that episode, maybe a familiar co-host from the past of Positively Trek. It's Bruce. Bruce is back.
I was just going to say it's Bruce, isn't it?
Very excited. I have to get that one edited and out. It'll probably be not this coming week, but the week after. So yeah, it's a great episode. We had a lot of fun. But yeah, until next week, have a great week. And we're going to talk about the next episode of Picard. And I'm very excited about that one. And live long and prosper.
Also, live logs and proper.
Live logs and